Alvina, good to see you and thank you for sparing the time. I distinctly remember meeting you for the first time in October 2022 at the cocktail event right after the opening ceremony. And I'm very interested to know how you got to that point. What led to you coming to CEIBS? And on day one, what were you hoping to achieve in the journey ahead?
Thank you, Professor, for having me here. Really nice to see you again. It was 2022 October. It took me some effort to come here because during that time, many people are in lockdown. At that moment, I told myself, it's a decision I made. It's a right decision. Even it takes effort, I will come. After I arriving here, I attended the opening ceremony.
And you had arrived from the Netherlands, right? Where
Yes.
you had been based for some time.
Yes. And I remember from the ceremony, I hear your speech. I also saw the flags of European Union and Chinese. I feel, wow, that is me. I have both sides. The European side because I have been living in Europe for almost 10 years. I was born in China and raised up in China. So I feel the school will provide me both sides, European side and Chinese side. I talk a lot with students coming from different backgrounds, professors who worked abroad many years and come back to China. These professors also know very deep in China and also have the global width.
What were you hoping on day one that you would be getting out of this program?
You know, what I learned from the CEIBS is your value proposition. So for me, I think my value proposition is a bridge between two regions, China and Europe, where I think CEIBS can provide me the best. Before I worked in the Netherlands, in Europe, for clients all around the world, but I didn't stay in China for working or for living long after I graduated from university in China. So I feel this is a really good chance to know China much more and also to build up a network again in China. In terms of why CEIBS, of course, ranking-wise is the best, not only in China, also in Asia. So for me, that's not only the choice, it's the only choice.
And your background was in architecture, correct?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what you were doing in the Netherlands.
I went to a university called the TU Delft. It's one of the best universities in Europe. In terms of architecture, it's the second in the world. Before I graduated from this university, I was invited to join a Dutch firm specialized on sustainable buildings. And from then on, I expand my expertise from only architecture to business and management.
So a lot of transitions going on, right? From a technical kind of background in architecture to a more business perspective, from China to Europe, then back to China, but with the hope to continue being a bridge between China and Europe. Extremely interesting. But you also mentioned sustainability. And I want to fast forward now about 6-7 months into the program. I assume one of the highlights of your time at CEIBS, as you look back, will be the ESG Forum that took place in April 2023. Tell me a little bit about that, the build up to it, what you were trying to do, what actually happened.
I would say that period was hectic because academic-wise, it's very, very busy. To prepare for the forum requires a lot of effort. The forum is truly a collective effort, I think from 3 aspects. One is from the students, of course, from my club members and all the students like volunteers. The other one help to lay a foundation of all the admin operation thing. The second aspect is the school side. For the school side, there's 2 things also. One is from, say, the CDC and professors. They are helping to find sponsors and speakers. Another one is from the operations. The other one trying to organize all the logistic things. The third aspect is from the industry or society. The other one support a lot by recommend speakers or giving some ideas to how to make it better. Everyone trying to work hard for it. I'm only the one staying in between and try to gather all the help and kindness and make it happen in the end.
Well, the only orchestration type of activity that you did actually takes a lot of effort. You need to have a vision. You need to have good human relations with very different people. So I'm sure it was effortful, not effortless. But one of the things I remember was that you also took efforts to make it a carbon neutral event. I think this is the first event in CEIBS where I've seen something like that. You also use very sustainable materials for the decorations, right? Cardboard boxes that could then be recycled and used for another event. So it wasn't just the content of what you laid on, but it was also how you went about doing it, which I think has set a very good example, not just for this club, but for a lot of other student activities. So let's fast forward again. Tell me a little bit about the final part of this MBA journey and what led to you getting this excellent job opportunity.
2023, last year, January, we had a job fair. So I got to know the company called Hilti. At that moment, I approached HR to see what job are offered over there. Of course, before that, I did some homework to study about the company. At that moment, there was no ideal role for me, but I know this is a good company I want to work for. Then I went to exchange in INSEAD, France. Many companies went to INSEAD for campus talk at the same time, also happening in CEIBS, but I was physically in France. So Hilti went there. I got contact one of the general manager of Luxembourg and Belgium. His name is Frederick. His story inspired me a lot about how he made a decision after MBA and of his experience in Hilti. So the seed was planted last year, January, and grow a little bit more during my exchange in INSEAD by knowing Frederick. So I feel, okay, I really need to apply for this job. It's not only a thinking, it's turned to be a real action. So I'm very happy I got the role for product manager.
Congratulations.
It's a role, thank you. It's a global role, so I'm able to interact with people from different culture, different backgrounds. What is very important during the process is how I got the job. So after applying for the job, I got my interview. The first round interview was very good. Although I feel I could have done better, I thought, okay, I need some help. I feel I can go further with all the help, especially leverage the network from our own alumni. The first thing I approach is to ask my mentor, Albert Yan. I say, oh, I got invited for the final interview. And I do know there are a few alumni working for Hilti before or at the same time. So I say, okay, I saw this EMBA alumni called Everest Xu. Do you know him? Can you reach out to him for me? He was a former sales director of China, Hilti, so he must know a lot. It was an evening, quite late for China time, almost 12 o'clock. I was in Netherlands, so for me it's earlier. I remember Albert Yan, my mentor, contact Everest very quickly, and I got a reply. I got his WeChat. And the day after, we had a phone call. He offered me 1 hour phone call and really think for me for this role, what I need to look at and what's the situation in China. He even introduced me another alumni called David Liu. He was an alumni of 2013, if I remember correctly. So from EMBA again back to MBA. And David Liu taking the role of regional product manager. So he knows really well the product manager role, but in this region.
Right.
He told me also his idea, how he sees the role. And I feel, oh, I got so much information. I also remember another help. When I was helping the forum in Brussels about Europe and China, I got to know Robert, Mariana, and Miss Lindsay from our CEIBS Zurich campus. I told them that I was invited for the final interview for Hilti. They introduced me another CEIBS alumni called Yash. He also offered me a lot of advice to say, okay, what should I do? Carry on this. I prepare almost 2 weeks full time. So I calculate hours, it's almost 80 hours.
80 hours of preparation.
Yeah, for the final interview. Why? On the one hand, I feel I got all the help already. I feel very confident to continue. On the other hand, I feel I shouldn't feel all the help. I must excel it, right? People say it's tough. It's very tough. You have 4 people interviewing you and another 2 having lunch with you, ask all kinds of questions. It must be tiresome. I didn't feel so. Because with all the help and preparation, I just felt it's more like a conversation with old colleagues or exciting new colleagues.
Right.
In the end, I feel it's so right. It's a company I want to work for. It's same as how I imagined before. People are so nice and supporting. And also, by this preparation, I feel, I really get close, connected to the product I'm going to be responsible for. So eventually, it turned out to be a good news. Although they have 2 more people to interview, they gave me an offer. So a Friday, I interviewed in Liechtenstein. The next Monday, I received a phone call saying, Alvina, you get a yes. We really want you. Again, it's a collective effort. I'm only the one being there presenting and telling my story, but behind, so many people standing behind me.
What a wonderful story, Alvina. And for me, this is such a good example of how to take advantage of the resources and networks that CEIBS offers. What I often say to students is that the CEIBS network, which is very powerful and fantastic, it doesn't fall into your lap. You need to be very intentional in trying to leverage it. In fact, there are 3 things I say about leveraging networks. Networks need to be leveraged actively, not passively. They should be leveraged discerningly, recognizing that different types of relationships are good for different things. And they should be leveraged reflectively, because it's not just about opportunities you get out of networks, important though they are. I think it's the learning that comes out of the networks that are maybe the most sustainable benefit. And what I see in your story at CEIBS as an MBA student is that you came in with a broad strategic focus that was very aligned with CEIBS, the ability to bridge Europe and China, for example, without necessarily knowing exactly what would happen. As the journey unfolded, you really put your all into being part of a very successful and meaningful endeavor, the ESG Summit, among many, many other things that you did, even the club did. You actively harnessed the resources and networks and goodwill that CEIBS has. And then when you were at a partner exchange school, again, that same mindset of being very active in terms of pursuing the opportunities that arose and then also tapping into the CEIBS networks. And so I think that is such a good way in which to take advantage of opportunities that arise. And I'm sure that kind of approach will hold you in good stead in your career as well. And in fact, you are one of 3 recipients of a Student Leader Award chosen by your peers. You should be very proud of everything you've accomplished. Just as we wrap up, what advice would you give to current and future MBA students at CEIBS?
I would say 3 things. One is be authentic. Follow your heart. For me, I'm into sustainability. I love contracting, working by my hands, because people, in the end, notice that you are yourself, automatically feel they want to be closer to you, knowing a bit even more. The second thing I think is being proactive. Being proactive is not only in academic, it's also in your work and your network. So I would say don't be shy, be proactive, and you will not let down. You will be surprised in a very good way. The third thing I would suggest is be prepared. Because with all the help, with all the support, we need to do our own part too. It's not only talk to so many people, but we need to do our own work to make it further.
Right.
So in short, I would say authentic, proactive, prepared.
That is excellent advice for anybody. The thing about joining the CEIBS MBA journey, we often say it's a lifelong association if you wish it. And I certainly look forward to being in touch with you. And I hope as an alum, you will continue to engage with us. All the very best as you go back to Europe and start your new adventure there.
Thank you very much. With all the help I got, I'm really eager to give it back to more people, more future students. And hopefully the community will continue and even being more warm, supportive, and we will say, last along and prosper.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All the best.